You alright? My name's Paul. I've got autism and I make random videos based on my version of autism and the way my head works, and I stick them on the internet just in case you want to watch or listen. Throw the audio up as well. Um, Hope everyone's doing alright. I have had a busy day and I'm using this just as a bit of time to unwind and forget about the day I've had because the traffic today, the weather, was crazy. It wasn't even a storm like scheduled for today. But what is weird is there was so much talk about Storm Eunice. Storm Eunice, oh, it's going to be bad. But like I said in my last video, it blew the bin lid open. That was about as crazy as it got for me. But then this sneaky storm, Storm Franklin, I think it was called, nearly blew the house over. It's like, why is it only important when Parliament, when it's going to touch Parliament? Why does it become a national emergency, but when it's just in the north, they're not bothered? But honestly, man, I would have been clinging onto lampposts to not get blown over if I was outside. That was a big one, but nothing scheduled for today. But still, having to go really slow on the motorway because a lot of surface water. You couldn't drive past HGV wagons because the spray was too much. And then I get closer to Leeds because I was working in Leeds today. Sunglasses on because it was such a bright day over there. So it's just been weird. And then I had to reverse that back. And then the sun was in your eyes again because I obviously left when the sun was in my eyes and came back with it in my eyes. I just think God's trying to blind me. Um, but yeah, I'm just using this as a bit of an unwind session, but it's probably the wrong topic because when I'm on an unwind session, I'm trying to lose everything I've done for the day. I'm trying to take the mask off, which I've had to wear all day. And to be fair, today's been a busy day. I had to go to this building which was opened in November, and there is just no evidence that it's compliant, which is petrifying. Um, the fire risk assessment was done by the same company who did the fire strategy for the building, and that's exactly the same in the normal world as marking your own homework. You don't have the same company do it. So there's still a few things that need to be ironed out, but I only went to confirm that the building was all right, and I've got to go back because it's not. So I need to look in my diary tomorrow and book all that in, and basically comb through that place and say, why is that like that? Why is that doing that? Not sure about that. Can you prove that's all right? And just give it to other people who should have made sure it was done right in the first place. But we're not here to talk about my day job. But I'm trying to take the mask off and relax. But like I say, the topic I've chosen is because I've been asked this question 1,000 times, and I've never really got round to answering it because I'm not sure how to. So I just, again, with most of my waffling nonsense that I stick on the internet, just trying to figure it out as I go along. And plus, for the first time in about 2 months, I feel not as bad as I have done. But I only mean like in the past half an hour. I'm still really dizzy. And when I get these little pockets of not feeling as horrible as I have done for the past couple of months, I'm starting to cherish them. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't feel disgusting for 5 seconds. Yay. Um, but what's weird is because I still can't get a doctor's appointment. Honestly, I don't know how you get in my doctor's. It's probably not even a doctor's. It's probably a front for like laundering stuff. You know, I do not know how people get in there. And then when you do get an appointment, if by some miraculous intervention from the divine, you go to the waiting room and there's no one in it. And it's not because of COVID. That's sort of been knocked on the head in England these days. No one cares if you die of it, but you go in there. There's just an empty waiting room just with someone sat on reception, probably keeping an eye out for the police because it's blatantly an illegal den. It's probably got a poker tournament in each of the rooms instead of doctors' surgeries. Um, but anyway, what I'm saying is I still can't get an appointment, so that then leads you down the internet route of trying to diagnose yourself, doesn't it? And something hit me like a ton of bricks, and I thought, what if? Because when my best friend died when he was 32, I was not beside myself, but I felt so helpless, and it ruined my existence for the 3 weeks that I knew he was gonna pass away. And I couldn't deal with the fact that even though I knew he was gonna lose his life within those 3 weeks, I knew he knew that too, and I just could not deal with that, and it destroyed me, and every time I'd get up for the bathroom, in the night, the realization had hit me that he's gonna pass away, and then I'd be more worried going, "Well, what if he's woke up for the bathroom and he's realized that he's going to be the one passing away?" And absolutely destroyed me. Really, really did. But I've told you about that before. And maybe one day I'll do a special little video for the people who know what it's like to, really lose someone ridiculously close to you that you can never fathom out. Maybe I'll do a video trying to make sense of it from an autistic perspective to lose, how hard it is to get a connection with a human being. And then I finally get one and he, gets taken away. Um, but what was I saying about that? Yeah, so when it was when he was passing away, I remember I got a pain in my side, and I think I've told you before. I've had a camera where you shouldn't shove one in a bloke, up the front hose, um, and I had MRIs, I had ultrasounds, I gave bloods, I did the works because of this pain, and I ended up with this pain for 2 years, and it was debilitating, and it was so uncomfortable to have, and it ruined my life. Since the day he passed away until like 2 years later, I ended up with this pain and I couldn't get rid of it. And it took a doctor to tell me what it wasn't after MRIs, like it's not cancer, it's not a tumor, it's not this, it's not that, ruling out the really bad stuff. And I had to then learn to live with the pain because it was nothing that they could find. But because I've been dizzy for the past couple of months, and I've had this unexplained pain and I've been having to go to A&E and things like this, at the time when I had the original pain and there was no answer whatsoever, I did my own research online and I was like, could it be fibromyalgia? What is fibromyalgia? And I was having a good nosy around it and I thought, I hit a lot of these triggers, but what is it? Where could it have come from? And I was reading down the list of ways you could potentially get fibromyalgia, and the very last line said, it can be brought on by the death of someone very close. And I thought, there we go, then I've got this very unexplained, very painful thing under my ribs, and yet I've had bloods, urine, had me, eggs felt down there, had a camera put up, the wrong way, and I've done everything and they can't find a single thing, but I've got the pain. I'm not going mad. I've got it. It's hurting. It stops me doing everything. It was bringing on frequent urination. Like, I could go to the toilet, go downstairs and go to that toilet and have just as much to give. I know I'm oversharing, but I'm getting to a point. So I thought, what if it could be this fibromyalgia back then? I asked the doctor. They just laughed it off like it's not real. And I was like, well, what is it then? I've, I've done everything and there's still no answer. There isn't an answer of what it is. There's only an answer of what it isn't. And as much as that helped, I'm still curious. And now I've got this new issue, which apparently was related to the heart. Still could be. Not ruling that out, but I can't get in the doctors to talk to anyone. And I've got this unexplained issue in my back, which it's now decided to settle. So I've had this issue bouncing around my torso. It's decided to settle in my back at where the liver and kidneys and spleen and all these other things want to sit, which ironically is exactly, I think, from what I remember, because the pain did eventually go after 2 years. I just got these little flare ups, but it's kind of in exactly the same line, but in my back and not at the front. So I'm like, well, what if fibromyalgia? What if I have got that and it's come back and now it's in my back? So I just went online before and just typed in, can fibromyalgia make you dizzy? Because I have this, what I assume would be this, what they call the fibro fog. Like it can be, like refueling my car can be such a difficult task to do in the right order when I've got this fog in my mind. And can it make you dizzy? Yes. It's like 70% of people can suffer with prolonged dizziness, can last for, a great length of time. It can make them so they can't get out of bed. It can be good, it can be bad, and I'm thinking, all right, I had this unexplained pain for 2 solid years that ruined me. I couldn't do anything with it, and my mood was on its backside. I've now got a pain back, And that was brought on because of the loss of my friend, and I got anxious again when I was returning to work, really anxious. And I think, well, what if it's because I'm already broken by it? What if it's now triggered and gone into me back, and the dizziness is now a new sign? And but I shouldn't be diagnosing myself. I should be able to get an appointment with a doctor, shouldn't I? So what I'm basically going to be doing, if I can ever get through to a doctor, is I'll be asking for blood workup, a urine check, and basically so I can rule out the bad stuff because I'm playing the so long as I can know what it isn't game. Um, and then if they all come back absolutely fine, and then my heart EKG, if that comes back fine, a lot of ifs, um, then I'll want to discuss this fibromyalgia because the pain and the detriment it's causing to my health. I need to talk about it because what I think doctors need to understand, even though I catastrophize what's wrong with me, there is something wrong. And they need to realize just how poor it is for somebody's well being to consistently think they're going to die. And how important it is that I'm at least listened to by a medical professional just to talk to, even for an allotted time of a normal appointment. But it's my mental health suffering, and surely that's what your doctors are for. Anyway, but any fibromyalgia sufferers, drop us an email, and if you can sort of gravitate to what I'm saying and let me know because you know more than I do, someone who's actually had it diagnosed. But one thing which I did find interesting, and I know I've gone way off tangent, but you know me, is obviously when you're on the internet and you can, if you've got a bruised toe, they can tell you it's gangrene and your foot's falling off. Is how wrong you can be, even though all the symptoms fit. And I thought that was quite interesting when you think of things like autism, because there's going to be a lot of people who will read a lot of things and go, yep, I do that. Yep, that happens to me. Oh my God, that's how I react. And they can believe they've got autism, but the reality is they might not. And I think that's why it's quite important to try and pursue an autism diagnosis, because whereas I need to know what it isn't more than what it is in a medical sense, it's the not knowing that causes me the most amount of damage mentally. So I know if I thought I had autism, that versus actually going to see someone and talking about it and pursuing the route, I would rather know if I do or I don't, even though it's not a severe, it's not going to impact your health, your physical health. For me, the not knowing is sometimes worse than bad news. Not that autism's bad news. I love my autism. Everybody should. But I'm obviously going off on a tangent, guys. I hope you appreciate that. I'm trying to come down, and I'm frustrated about my health issues, and I just want to feel all right. I want to be able to get on with exercise. I want to rebuild myself in my image physically and start eating properly. But when your mood's on its backside, you know what it's like to just go, I'll have a bag of crisps. Yeah, keep that salad away from me. I'm not interested. But anyway, that's half the video done by me just having a waffle. But you've got to understand, I don't really have many people to vent to, because the people I do have to vent to are sick of hearing me talk about stuff like this. So every time I open my mouth, it's like, Paul, we've heard it. Shut up. And you can't tell me to shut up. You can just mute me until I do this to say, I've finished moaning. Now I'm talking about the thing I want to talk about. Turn your volume back on. Anyway, I want to talk about something, obviously briefly now. I've been sent a question so many times over, and I've been reading a lot of forums recently as well with people with questions. And one of my next little ideas is I'm going to throw myself straight in the firing line to get knocked down. But basically, I think these forums for autistic people, the nameless questions answered by anonymous people. So I want to grab some of these questions and throw them on something which I'll basically just answer a question each of other people's questions aimed at the world, and see how my autistic perspective might answer it. But that's just a little venture of something I'm I'm going to do as a hobby, because I want to try and put myself in other people's shoes instead of just my own all the time. But that's by the by. My head's just spinning. It's been such a busy day. But I get asked a question quite a lot, and I see it in the forums, is therapy. Am I in therapy? Do I see a therapist? Do I see a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a counselor? Because when you go on the forums, lots of people in the forum start a question with, I was talking to my therapist today. My psychotherapist says, and because of the amount of times I get asked, I thought I'd answer it, a million miles into the video before I press end. But no is the answer. I do not and will not. I will not see a psychotherapist, any type of therapist, any psychologist, or a counselor, whatever the terms are. Where you sit with someone and have a waffle with them about your head. I won't do that about my autism, because to me, my autism would be then a problem, which I am looking for answers to. And I don't see my autism as a problem. And I think that is the problem. I think there's too many people who are neurotypical who brand autism a problem because autism can be a cash cow. And some people, not all, but some people can take advantage of that and offer therapy. But one of the problems, one of the reasons I don't do it, because obviously it's just my opinion and my perspective, but it has been asked for more than once. What are they going to do? And it's kind of the same way for all therapy. I have a perspective on it. I think it's a great thing for people who need it. I'm certainly not knocking it, but I would need to see a therapist who is autistic for me to walk through the door. And the reason being is because of something I say often, whether I say it on air or I say it to other people, is if they're not autistic, they can't get it. They can think they can get it. They can be accurate half the time and inaccurate half the time, but they can't understand. And it's kind of like with workplace assessments, like I've mentioned before. I had one of those, and it was unfortunate that it was evidently for people with high need and low skill, whereas I am low need and high skill. So when I'm trying to give you an absolute bang on explanation of what's wrong, why it's wrong, what's the reasonable adjustment required, and evidence as to why it wouldn't affect anybody else, the person sat there looking at me going, right, can we just bring it back in? Do you have a problem with sound? Just trying to hit the the sight, smell, touch, taste, whatever. You know what I'm on about. So, it was a million miles away. So I feel it's the same when it comes to therapy. I think it's a bit like if you're American and you use words like sidewalk, freeway, and we use pavement, motorway. It's like we still speak the same language, but there are subtle differences. And that's to me what autism is. And discussing your autism with someone who doesn't have it. Being a clinical psychologist doesn't make you an expert in autism. Having autism makes you an expert in autism. And then taking the time to break yourself down for the bad as well as the good, to be humble enough to go, that was my fault. There was a question on one of the forums where this girl was saying, how do you manage noise? Because I want to start going to bars, but I know I'm going to be overloaded. I don't like being around crowds. Music's too loud. And I just thought, then why do you want to go? You already know you have a problem with sound. You already you have a problem with crowds. A lot of the advice was wear headphones or earphones, ear defenders. It's like they're going clubbing or going to a bar with the friends, maybe. I don't know, but how are you going to hear people talk if you've got ear defenders on? And surely the whole point of going to a bar is to have a few drinks, and dance maybe to the loud music or whatever. And I just think, I know all the triggers of what a bar does to me. So guess where I don't go? Bars. So I just basically put in the thing, do reconnaissance, visit these bars before the night, try and find a bar that's more suitable for you. Maybe hit a restaurant slash bar because there's more order around that and the music isn't as loud. And, just slow and steady wins the race. But You wouldn't just walk straight into a random bar, bang on a set of air defenders, and expect it to be okay. It's not the way the world works, is it? You do have to you do have to do it yourself. And that was kind of what puts me off a little bit with the thought of therapy. How can I speak to someone openly and honestly about my concerns in autism when they don't absolutely understand or can't put themselves in my shoes? If I was talking to an autistic therapist, let's say I was a therapist and someone with autism came in and they were like, yep, I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other, but you know, the amount of times, like I might have ordered something and it arrives and someone knocks on my door to deliver it and I can't answer the door and a slip comes through the letterbox and it's like I've got to now go to the collection office and get that parcel, but that's on my terms. I can go and do that. Whereas opening that front door, it feels like they're intruding on me. This is my sanctuary and they are at my door and I just didn't have the energy or headspace to open it. To other people, it's like, well, what a wasted trip. Why why didn't you just open your door or shout through your door and say, leave it on my doorstep, I'll get it? Why couldn't you just do that? Why did you then have to make a task for yourself? Whereas someone like me fully understands that. Because to some people, what is nothing is everything to someone like me. I can deal with active incident command for a site that has an emergency on it and my heart rate doesn't rise 1%. But when I'm not feeling great, expect me to answer a door. Basically, second it starts getting a touch personal, it's not good. But I would absolutely understand that. I'd say, I understand that your home is your sanctuary. That's your tiny postage stamp on all of this earth where you can take that mask off. I know how precious that sanctuary feels. So to open that door, it's like someone is coming in on you and this is your space and you need to defend it. And it depending on how burnt out you are, depends on how strong that door means everything. And if you need to keep it closed, so then when you collect the parcel, you are the one walking in on someone else, you're taking control of that situation. I get that. Whereas a therapist who is not autistic might go that it's a small issue. I understand it might be a large issue for you, but these other ways you could potentially maybe think of this. Why don't you write down on a piece of paper all the things it makes you feel? I'm not mocking therapists. Honestly, I'm not. I think they're a great asset. I just don't see how they would, because people have asked me, do I have a therapist? I'm answering from my perspective why they wouldn't work for me. I, regardless, would have to do the work anyway. And that's what therapy is. Whether it's a psychotherapist or a psychologist, you're still the one who has to do the work. If you order food, from a supermarket, if you need food for your house, you have to go to the supermarket or order it online. If you have no assistance, of course, and that's what I'm trying to get at. So even if you did it online, you still have to do the bare minimum of doing that shop online. You still have to do the bare minimum and open your door to accept it. So you still have to do something yourself. And there's so much emphasis and effort on people expecting psychotherapists and psychologists to do it for them. If you want to celebrate winning a race, you're the one who has to train and run it. You are always the one in control of your design, your thought, and bringing yourself to the forefront. Even if you're of low mood and they're like, look, I'm just asking you to do the bare minimum. Get up for 10 a.m. and make sure by 12 you've had a shower. That's all I'm asking you to do for the day. And in a week, come back, tell me how many times you did it. Let's talk about how it made you feel. Right. But you still had to set your alarm. You still had to get out of bed. You still had to get yourself in that shower. They just told you something you already know deep down. It's just because somebody else tells you. I used to work the bars years ago. The amount of people who would sit at the end of a bar and just talk to you because you're never going to see them again, and they would spill the world's problems on your shoulders, and you just give them impartial advice that they already know deep down. So because of the miscommunication of people who, because like, what are the odds of finding an autistic psychotherapist in your area? to talk to, who's available on a healthcare plan or is cheap enough to, pay yourself. So limited to find something like that. And I don't want to waste my time or their time by speaking to someone who can, like I say, understand the language I'm speaking, but there are subtle differences. And I remember once I was charged twice for my internet when I'd moved house because they left it on the old house and put a new bill on my new house. And I was speaking to someone in India where the call center was, and they spoke great English, but what was being lost in translation was what I was trying to say. So they could understand all the words, but my point couldn't get across. And I ended up having to be on the phone for nearly 2 hours to then speak to someone based in the UK to explain my issue again. And I got to explain my issue and it got fixed. But because they spoke much better English than I would ever speak Indian, it was the translation of what I was trying to say just couldn't come through. Um, and that was the problem. And I feel because I am autistic and because all my issues are driven by my autism, and because my issues are so minute, when you talk to a person who's neurotypical, and like I've been letting people know at work, my flaws. Like I say, give me a building that's for 3,000 people and it's on fire. Okay, not a problem. I'll be the first one at the front of the building. Easy, I'll sort that out. In my head, of course, not. And with a lot of water. But ask me to be the first person to introduce myself in an icebreaker. That's where I fail. Ask me to attend a team building exercise day. That ain't happening, you know? It just cannot happen 'cause it's forced fun. It's forcing me to be personal for another reason other than a choice that I'm making. Paul, share your human self with people on company time. That breaks me to pieces. But when I say that to people who are not autistic, they don't get it. And they laugh at it and they laugh it off and it becomes a joke and they're like, oh wow, I wish it was the other way. I wish it was that way for me. And so if everybody gets that, what makes a psychologist any different? How can they put themselves in my shoes of how it makes me feel? And that's the word. It's feel, feelings, reaction, fight or flight, emotion. All the things that actually make autism what it is. That isn't your touch, smell, taste, sight. That isn't those triggers. The things that make autism, the good, the bad, the reaction, the feeling. They are the things you absolutely cannot teach. They are things you have to feel to understand how it is. So psychotherapists, psychologists, people who've specialized in autism, you can only come so far and then we have to walk the rest of the way ourselves. We can't meet halfway. There will always be a missing part. And for me personally, the reason I've never had therapy is because the part that matters the most for me, where I need the most assistance, is the part you cannot teach. So that is why, my friends, I have never pursued the path of having it, because I only see the point in doing things if there is success to be had at the end. I don't want to get more frustrated. And it's unfair on a psychotherapist or a psychologist to get a bad rap because I'm the one person they potentially might not be able to connect with. I'd rather free up that space for someone who needs them for something they are actually trained to deal with, which might be a cognitive issue. My issues are not cognitive, they are emotional. They are reaction, they are feeling. They are the way my natural state is. It's not a flaw, it's the way I'm designed. And I'm just different. And that's all right. And I'll deal with me in my way and break myself down and try and figure it out. But that's why I don't have therapy. My opinion, I'm allowed it just like you are. But thanks for watching and I hope it made sense. But until next time, thanks for watching and keep smiling.